Hello, thank you for joining me on the SP show. My name is Tatton. We've got so much coming up today. We're going to talk about TV and rugby, and we're going to talk about fraud, and we're going to talk about my award. And we're going to do loads of stuff. So let's get cracking. So first up, rugby. Right now, the Six Nations are going on. People love the Six Nations. People who don't really like rugby love the Six Nations. I think 14 million people will this year watch the Six Nations on TV at some point. And one of the reasons people love it is because it's fun playing the other nations, and everyone knows someone who's Scottish or whatever. So there's that element within Friends, and then you've got France and Italy as well, and it's a fun tournament. This could be the last year that it's like this. TV rights are up for negotiation, right? And you'll never guess who wants them. Sky Sports, or to be fair, TNT Sports or Discovery Plus, or whatever they're called these days, they want to have the Six Nations, because people like the Six Nations, so people would pay the money, and then they'd pay the money, and then they'd be able to see it, and TNT would love it, but it wouldn't give people the sport they want to see. Now, other sports are protected. The government has a list of crown jewels, and they include the FA Cup final, men and women's FA Cup finals. They include Wimbledon. Right, so Sky can't have the whole of Wimbledon and just show it on Sky. It has to be on terrestrial TV. It could be on ITV rather than the BBC. Doesn't feel like that's likely, but whatever. BBC and ITV share the FA Cup. They share the men's and women's football World Cups. These things have to be on terrestrial free-to-air telly. Rugby union's not on that list. The Six Nations aren't on that list. In Parliament next week, they're talking about, there's a debate in Parliament to try to get the government to move things in. Without that protection from the government, this contract could be lost. And that's what happened to cricket. Cricket wasn't on the list. Highlights were. So highlights are on the BBC or ITV or wherever they are now. But cricket was taken off everyone's screen, and behind this paywall, fewer people watch cricket as a result. But if we want the Six Nations to stay open for everyone to see, we might want the government to add it to their list. It's hard to move something onto the list because it's not a free market. A free market means that you can sell your televisual rights to whoever you want. If it's not on that list, it could be disappearing from your screen. It's time for your questions. Now, if you have got any questions about what we're talking about or anything in the news, do just bung them down here on this, the bit here, right? And I'll read them. And the wonderful Lottie, who does our filming, she'll read them as well, and then we'll answer your questions. So yeah, do give us a question. We had a lot of questions, a lot of comments this week, and I'm not going to touch any of them because all I want to talk about, lovely people, is this. I went to London on Wednesday. For the inaugural Political Podcast Awards. We were up against, it was such a glitzy place. Loads of politicians, loads of journalists, all the people, you'd recognise so many of the people. We're up against the BBC's ones and Sky News' ones, and Alistair Campbell and Rory Stewart. That's the Gary Lineker. The rest is staff, £1 billion organisations. And we were the only independent nominated. We were nominated for Podcast of the Year. That's not what this one is. We didn't win. You're right. We should have done. We were nominated for People's Choice Award, and apparently we did quite well in that. But this is the format. This is about format, and we went into their house, and we won. That's pretty cool. We're just you. It's just you and me. That's what it is. That's what SP is. We just hang out. Yeah. So thank you very much for your comments and your DMs and all that with this. On to the main business of the day. This week we had a set of crime statistics, and it had crime going up by 12% across the country. And that sounds pretty bad, and it kind of makes sense because we hear a lot of crime stories, we hear a lot about knife crime, we hear a lot about all kinds of things, but that didn't explain the rise. In fact, all of those crimes have pretty much stayed where they are. One crime has gone up so massively, it's drawn the whole crime figures for the UK upwards. That is fraud. Fraud is up by 19%. it's estimated that there were 3.9 million incidences of fraud in the last year. 3.9 million. This makes sense because house robbing, burglary is down year on year on year because we don't have the stuff. It used to be that every house would have like a TV player or VCR that you could flog at the market. But second-hand TVs don't get you any money. The people who used to do those crimes don't get the money they need that way. So you're much less likely today to have your house broken into than you were however long ago. But you're not safe in your metaphorical house. People are gonna come and trip you up. They need to do that to get their money to pay for whatever it is they want to pay for. Now, let me tell you, according to the National Crime Agency, the biggest types of fraud are payment diversion fraud, investment fraud, romance fraud, courier fraud, as well as check, plastic, card, and online payment fraud. They're going to lie to you and they're going to try and get your money. They're going to send you text messages saying they're from the government or saying they're from your son who's out of town and he's lost his phone. Oh, mum, can you just help me out? There are clever people working on these things and they work at such scale. It doesn't matter if it doesn't work most of the time. If it works 0.00001% of the time, they're in the money because it's a scale thing. And it's hard to track people down. I've been on researching for this. I've been on the National Crime Agency website, and it talks you through a few of how to do with things. Change your password. Do not have the same password for everything. I know you do. Don't look at me like that. I know you've got the same password for everything. Don't do it. They've also got a few wanted criminals. So there's this fella here who set up a whole travel agency just to scam people trying to buy holidays. Like, people saving up for their holiday, for their 1 week. But he defrauded 20,000 people. But it's hard to catch these people because they're often not in the UK. It's all based offshore and we don't have the powers to police in the same way. And if we've clicked a link, then we've clicked the link. It's tricky. Now, one form of fraud that we are trying to stop is benefits fraud and especially COVID fraud. This is people who claimed furlough or business relief or other things during COVID who weren't allowed to claim those things. We made those funds quick and easy because we needed to get money out to people right when the pandemic hit and they weren't able to go to work. They needed to have some money. They needed to get it done. So it was deliberately rolled out quickly and easily, but that left lots of space for criminals, for fraudsters, for people who wanted to steal from the state, for people who wanted to take money out rather than see that money go to special needs education, for example. And the government's got a new bill this week on Monday. It starts off to prevent that kind of thing from happening, but also crucially to make people pay it back, to take people to court and claim back the money they fraudulently stole from the taxpayer, from schools, from, the meals for children. This one's going to run and run. Fraud is the battle that we face. One of the battles that we face. So stick around. We will continue to look at that stuff, and we'll see what this bill says on Monday. Lovely people, do stay safe out there. Do change your passwords. Just think. Ask your son. If your son's messaging you, ask your son a question that only he would know. Stay safe. Love you. Bye.